You and I listen to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to the lap of the extra mile for today, August 25th, 2022, and the playoff push is upon us. And help me talk about all of that, of course, is my co-host, Christopher Lehman. Chris?
How are you doing this evening, Darryl?
I'm doing great. Just getting ready for Formula 1 to finally be back. I see you've gotten a new souvenir since the last time we've been on Zoom.
2 or 3.
Yep. For those of you that can't see, there's a giant Max Verstappen flag behind Chris, and he's got the Red Bull shirt on. He is in full Red Bull mode as we get ready to start the Formula 1 season once again, and basically at this point a countdown to another Max Verstappen World Drivers' Championship and Red Bull World Constructors' Championship, because we know Ferrari ain't got it, so they might not make it. Well, at this point, they're not going to make it to second in the grid because Mercedes is going to come catch them. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to the races that happened this week first. And, of course, as always, if you're in the chat, make sure to get your comments in. We will read them out during the show. NASCAR went rain racing in the Cup Series again, sort of, at Watkins Glen.
Next to that.
Yeah, there is. The first 10 laps were run with the rain tires after the attempt to start during the rain was aborted and a red flag was put out. Now, Chris, some people were speaking in the name of safety and invoking COTA 2021. My view on the situation is we've learned so much from then that I think we could have started that race with it raining and not had a lot of issues.
I personally think that the difference between us not starting in Watkins Glen and us starting at COTA last year is turn one.
Yes.
At COTA, you are going straight uphill like 100-some feet, and then you're taking a sharp turn. And at Watkins Glen, you're going downhill at a pretty steep grade and then taking a sharp turn as well. I think that if we were at like Indy or something where it's relatively flat and then a hard, 90-degree turn, that'd be one thing. But I think realistically that we would have been looking at a major pileup. We're talking like, and I tweeted about this over the weekend, I think we're looking at Spa 1998 if we start up just with not a lot of experience on these tires, and the way that Watkins Glen turn one is, I just think that it would have been a major mess. And as much as I want to see racing in the real rain, I think that they probably did the right thing on delaying the start.
I don't know. I think my thing is we don't get that much opportunity to run these tires in the rain because we've only got the 6 road courses and you can't predict that it's going to rain at all 6. So my thing is when we get the opportunity to run on them, we got to run on them so that these teams can at least learn what they do, so that the drivers can learn what they do so they can get better at this rain thing. Because you had a lot of European fans to watch Kimi Räikkönen that probably did not stay up to watch the race because it was very late by the time they actually got the green out there. And the race was already delayed because of lightning, which you can't race in lightning. You can do the rain, not lightning. But you kind of had an opportunity there to show off to a lot of the European fans, and I don't think a lot of them stayed up to watch the race.
I think that the hardcore ones probably did. These are probably the same ones that stay up to watch the Australian GP. But yeah, I mean, your casuals definitely probably not staying up for it, and that's okay, right? But an opportunity was definitely missed, especially with such an audience, with Kimi Räikkönen, and there was actually a couple other guys who were, international. It was 7 countries represented, I think it was. Um, so you probably had people from around the world watching their countrymen, and unfortunately, the casuals probably turned off or waited and watched part of the race at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your hardcore ones probably stayed up for the whole thing.
So I was just looking at something on Twitter before we continue. There's a video put out, I guess, of the wreck at the end of the Daytona 500 earlier this year, and it zoomed in, and to fill people in, Kurt Busch is out for the start of the playoffs due to this concussion, and I'm not so sure Ricky Stenhouse Jr. didn't get concussed at the 500 because his head, Chris, hit the car hits the wall. His head moves a good foot forward and slings back. That's a problem.
Yeah, I think there have been kind of multiple complaints this year about these cars kind of transferring the energy into the driver's seat. Um, I almost think that it was like Kyle Busch or somebody said that these hits hurt. Um, but yeah, I mean concussions in motorsports. Dale Jr. suffered through them. He's got a whole book out that kind of centers around his recovery, racing to the finish. And actually, I think Kurt Busch might be going to the same doctor that Dale Jr. did. I'm pretty sure that I saw that. I could be wrong though. But yeah, I mean, and brain injuries are certainly nothing to rush when it comes to your recovery. So I'm glad to see that Kurt isn't just coming back before he should. I'm glad to see that he's taking his time and making sure that he comes back right because racing is temporary. I mean, and you gotta protect your noggin. That's with you for life. So I'm glad that he's doing what he needs to do to recover. I completely understand why he's missing the playoffs this year. And I think I texted you earlier today that I think that we're going to see him come back for maybe the last two races of the season, or maybe just the last one. We might just see him for Phoenix, and then I think he hangs up his gloves after this season.
I don't think he should come back this season. Like, to be honest, like I don't know how it works with sponsor ramifications and everything, but if you're not going to be in the playoffs, get your mind right with this concussion. These things are not jokes. And he took a couple of hard hits this year. The wreck in Darlington that him and Bubba were involved in comes to mind. He took a bad one in Atlanta earlier this year as well. So this may have been, this concussion may have been a buildup from the other accidents. So I really hope that Kurt doesn't come back and just focuses on getting right and making sure he's 100% before he comes back.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see him rush himself back either. Yeah, he needs to do what he's got to do, especially you're not in the playoffs. So make sure that you do what you need to do to get right. And on the other side of things, I mean, Ty Gibbs is getting seat time, I think, and not to transition off of one Busch brother to the other. But I think that Ty Gibbs is definitely building the experience that he needs, and I see him in the 18 next year.
Mm-hmm. I could see that if they cannot get a deal done with Kyle Busch, which is looking increasingly likely. But we were talking a little bit earlier about Kimi Räikkönen. He was in the race this weekend that was won by Chase Elliott, and we'll get into the conversation about that finish in a moment. What did you think of Kimi's run? Because I think he did pretty respectable until, unfortunately, he got the end of the Great Chastaining.
Yeah, I thought Kimi had a really good run. It was really solid. I mean, he was running eighth at one point, Um, and so, yeah, I think that it was really good. I think that I don't think we'll see him back in NASCAR, even though I think a lot of us would like to.
Mm-hmm.
He's retired. I mean, maybe he'd come back, but I don't know that Project 91 is going to bring back the same drivers. You know, maybe after they've gotten through the initial rush of people, because uh, I don't know if you saw, but Justin Mark said they had 20 drivers,
Mm-hmm.
or at least 20 drivers. I don't know the exact amount. Reach out about jumping in that Project 91 car. So I'd like to see Kimmy back. He did a really good job. I think that especially for having very little NASCAR experience, I think he ran like um, Xfinity or something like 10 years ago. I don't know,
He ran
but
trucks like
truck,
forever and a day ago.
yeah, like 2009 or something like that. It was,
Yeah.
um, and so um, yeah, I think that he did really good, and I'd like to see I'd like to see him back. But I'm also excited to see what other Formula One guys have potentially reached out to Justin Marks about jumping in that car. Um, but yeah, Kimmy did great. I love seeing it, and I'd like to see it again.
Yes. I do know that Marcus Ericsson and Jensen Button are two of the drivers that are talking about being in the car. I know they were talking on Twitter about it. Just look at how exciting this Project 91 thing has been for Trackhouse and getting international drivers into NASCAR. And it really created a buzz during this weekend that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, Jensen Button's quite the catch if he comes over and does it, and he advocates for Project 91 in NASCAR. I mean, that's going to draw some viewers for sure. I think Kimmy was a good step in catching the Formula One world's eye,
Mm-hmm.
and someone like Jensen Button is what you do to get their respect. Um, so it'll be fun to see that. And then who else did you say had reached out?
Marcus Ericsson, who's currently in IndyCar.
Yeah, but he's finding success in IndyCar. He's doing pretty well. I think he's top three, and he's leading the championship right now, right?
Let me check.
I think he is.
He's either leading or he is close to it. No,
I think he's leading.
It's Power leading, Newgarden second, and Dixon third. Ericsson is fourth.
Oh, okay. Either way, he's up there though.
Yeah, he's
Um,
had some great runs the last couple of years.
yeah, absolutely. You know what? I might be thinking during the IndyCar race they did that weird where they didn't tell you that they were throwing it back to last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, because of the rain delay that they had,
Yeah,
they threw it back to last year's race.
maybe Ericsson was leading the championship last year or something.
He was
But
close last year.
but I definitely wasn't the only one confused about them switching over and playing last year's race during the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because they started out with essentially the same amount of laps left in the race, and then they just played last year's, and I was I was confused for like 10 laps.
I mean, they said last year, but they like put it up in like the left-hand corner in like a small box instead of running it somewhere where you
And
can
like
see
I think it was under something else too.
Yeah, it was under the lap counter. I think.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah, yeah. That's what it was. Is it was under the lap counter and it said last year. Like I'm going to notice that.
Right. I don't know why that graphic should have been put somewhere more where you could see it, but we'll get to IndyCar in a moment. But let's talk about that finish. We had two interesting finishes in the Watkins Glen races in Xfinity and Cup. Xfinity was the Ty Gibbs and William Byron going at it, and then the inevitable happens. And on Sunday, late race restart, Kyle Larson just takes his teammate off track going into turn one, ends up winning the race. Larson says he should have raced with more respect. I think that's the political answer. I think everybody and their mom knew what was coming in that turn one, except for Chase Elliott, apparently.
Yeah, so to step back on the Xfinity, Kyle Larson kind of had that race handed to him by William Byron and Ty Gibbs. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Ty Gibbs was necessarily at fault for that. I mean, he was racing for position. So was William Byron, obviously. And I think that was just one of those racing deals. So the little retaliation by William Byron, I think, was a little unnecessary. I get it, but at the same time, William Byron's not racing for a championship in Xfinity, and Ty Gibbs is. So to some degree, I feel like even though you're a Cup guy, you do need to recognize where you are in the, have some situational awareness. But as far as the Cup goes, I'm torn. I see both sides of it. If I'm Kyle Larson, I think he could have done it without running Chase off the track, to be fair. But at the same time, that's the surefire way to get it done. But you cost your organization at the same time. Chase went from a 1-2 to a 1-4. So that's money out of the organization's pocket. So I can see why in the competition meeting on Monday, there was some discussion about how to treat those restarts and how to do what's best for the organization and yourself. But yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, there was a picture that I retweeted of Jeff Gordon, Chase Elliott, and Rick Hendrick. And Rick is standing there with that face, and I swear he's thinking in his head, man, I thought I was done with this crap when Jimmy and Jeff stopped racing. Now we're back here again with his two top drivers beefing with each other. And that's just what happens when you have two great talents racing with each other. They get mad at each other. And both of them are going for a championship after this Saturday. This is only going to get worse. And I know Hendrick wants both his cars in the Final Four. And I've got to be thinking this little inter-team rivalry could be an opportunity for another driver to sneak up there and get a spot that previously wasn't available.
I agree to a point. I think that organizationally, I think Chase isn't going to do anything to limit Hendrick's potential for winning a championship. However, Chase Elliott is not going to do Kyle Larson any favors through these playoffs. It's not going to come down to wrecking, but it will come down to almost anything else. Yeah, he gave Kyle Larson the pick at Bristol last year, pinned Kevin Harvick. This year he's not doing that. Larson, I think it was Larson that ended up winning off of that, or maybe it was it Willie B. I think Willie B won the night race last year. I don't remember.
At Daytona, I think he did.
No, Bristol. Remember, because Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick had that deal, and Chase held up Kevin Harvick, and I think it was William Byron that ended up winning the race. It was William or Kyle Larson, one of the two.
I'm checking because I don't remember.
I think it was Larson, actually.
I think the race. It was Larson. Larson ended up winning it.
Yeah. So that's not happening this year.
No.
And I really thought that Chase did a very good job in his post-race interview. Did you see that?
Yes. he handled that beautifully.
Nobody knew. There was no confusion how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
Despite what he said, which was, I told Mr. Hendrick, congratulations on the win.
Yes.
Your team did very well. But he did not mean any of those words. And I just thought that
you could tell he was trying not to say, this bleep, bleep, bleep. He was trying so hard not to go off, and I commend him for it.
That's going to go down on one of those all-time interview moments in NASCAR. It's not quite Tony Stewart figure 8, but it's definitely going to make the highlight reel of some of the best interviews, or well, at least best answers.
It'll be one of the top 10, definitely. So we go into Daytona this week, and we thought we were going to have about 20 drivers racing for one spot. Unfortunately, as we mentioned earlier, Kurt Busch will not be making the first race of the playoffs, and because of that, 2311 has withdrawn their charter request. Now, what that means is that there are now 2 spots open in the playoffs instead of 1, which, if you're Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., that was the best news you've heard all season. If you're like us, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails for Saturday night.
Yeah. We were kind of talking about in the pre-show. If one of the other guys, if we get a new winner, to me, Truex or Blaney, whichever one finishes lesser in the points, has an asterisk next to them the entire playoffs.
Yes.
However, if somebody else gets the win, Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott or whoever, then sure, fair game. But if we get a new winner, then there's some asterisks going up for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Daytona will still be exciting. I hope we do get another winner just to give somebody else a shot at the playoffs. I'd love to see, not necessarily Justin Haley, but somebody like Justin Haley's a dark horse that could win. He's racing for a Cup championship, so he's playoff eligible, and just some sort of wild card like that. Or even Michael McDowell. Last year, he was definitely, in my opinion, the weakest of all of the playoff drivers. But this year, it would feel almost valid if Michael McDowell made the playoffs. Last year, it seemed kind of like a farce.
I think I really want Bubba to break this second place streak that he's had at Daytona, because he almost won the 500 earlier this year, and last year in this race to make the playoffs, he was a one turn from winning it. So I really hope that he can do it this week. And it would be extremely exciting for all of us, especially with how bad this season has been. This would be a great pick-me-up for Bubba Nation. So I hope he can get it done.
Yeah, someone like Bubba would be, that would definitely add to the storylines of the season. And for your sake, Darryl, it'd be nice to see your driver in the playoffs too.
Oh, it'd be a party time to be in the playoffs, even though we're probably not going to go past the first round. To just get in is exciting. So I would love to get to that first round and improve upon that for next year. But before we go on a break, I do want to talk about IndyCar a little bit. That was a great race at Gateway. A lot of green flag racing. But David Malukas, he is someone I've not paid attention to a lot this season. Chris, did you see the charge he put on at the end of that race? I thought he was going to get the win the way he was going.
Absolutely. I was texting. I was blowing up our group chat like Malukas. Holy F Malukas. Are you guys, Darryl, are you watching this? Holy F Malukas. But before that, when we were coming back from the red flag, Scott McLaughlin's in the lead, and I'm texting like, let's effing go. McLaughlin's got this. McLaughlin's got this. And then like 2-3 laps into the return to racing, and Will Power gets by him. Right? It was Will Power 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was like, fudge. And then a couple laps later, the announcers are, hey, Malukas is charging, and he's really working his way up through. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it, and that's kind of when we were all getting excited, like, holy shit, this is happening. And 2 more laps, and it would have happened. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. 2 more laps, or if he didn't get held up, he really took his time with McLaughlin. He really took his time, and if he would have just, gotten it done 2 or 3 laps earlier, he would have. I think he wore out his tires a little bit. He did have a tire advantage. He kind of wore him down a little bit, following McLaughlin. If he gets around McLaughlin two laps earlier, he wins the race. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he got stuck behind McLaughlin, and that's what cost him. But if he could have gotten that pass done earlier, no doubt about it, he wins that race. And that's a great showing out for a young driver, because other teams are watching that, and if they see him do that, it starts spinning some wheels at an Andretti or a Ganassi or, Penske about a potential ride in the future. And for a young kid like that, that'd be a great move for a car of him to get into, as Malukas actually led 4 laps on the day. But it was a good run for him, and hopefully he has a good run to end the season as they're heading over to the West Coast to finish the season in Portland and Laguna Seca. And for IndyCar, championship is down to, at this point, Will Power, 482, Joseph Newgarden, 479, Scott Dixon, 468. I still think Scott Dixon gets it done, but this is going to be a fun battle down to the end.
Yeah, it's very intriguing because you got 3 guys who are right there, and 2 races left. I mean, it makes for a really good storyline to close out these last couple races of the year. Mm-hmm. And I think Will Power probably closes it out, though. Dixon's 13 points down? 13 or
yes.
13?
Yeah.
And who is in second?
It is Power, Newgarden, and Dixon.
And Newgarden's down 2 points.
3, but yeah, 3 points.
3. Yeah, that's tough.
There's going to be no breaks for these drivers in the next 2 races. Like, every mistake is going to be magnified by like 50.
Not even mistakes either. It's just if you're not driving at 110%, one of those other 3 is.
Yes. So they're going to have to push. And we know Scott Dixon's late season charges, so you cannot count him out at all. But we are going to take a break. When we come back, Danny Rick wants to stay in Formula One despite leaving McLaren. Not sure if that's the best idea, but we'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy Dentarius Law.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sorry. And we're back here in Extra Mile on iSports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. Darryl and Chris with you this evening. And we just got some breaking news during the break from Adam Stern on Twitter. Chris, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so I'm just going to read the tweet verbatim. I did not get Adam slurned. I just do want to put this out there. It is from his verified account posted at 8:30 p.m., so just as we went into the break. And Adam Stern tweets, IndyCar getting a Drive to Survive like unscripted docuseries. So yeah. It's so the Penske Corporation executive vice president Jonathan Gibson basically put out a quote about how it's an important part of our roadmap and how there's a I don't know how to it'd just be very important for the sport. So
I mean, we've seen what it did for the popularity of Formula One. So shows like this could really boost that popularity for motorsports that is just now, to be honest, getting onto the social media game when it comes to promoting. And we know motorsports has been behind the 8 ball, but now they're starting to get into it. Formula One finally started to innovate, and now
NASCAR.
we will... Yeah, and NASCAR starting to get into it, so it's nice to see IndyCar starting to join that field as well. And you know what series I would love to see get its own reality show? The
Live
NHR...
Oh.
Which one?
The Live Golf.
Oh, God, don't get me started on Live Golf. But the NHRA, there are some rivalries in NHRA that people don't realize that are there. And if they had this show, oh my gosh, they'd have 5 million people watching those races every week. Because there are some folks over there that do not like each other. Straight up. And it's funny to see them line up. You think everybody over there is just buddy? There's some folks that will throw down in them pits.
Yeah. What about hydroplanes? Are they all pretty well buddy, or are there some deep-seated rivalries there?
There's one big rivalry. That's Jimmy Shane and Dave Villwalk. But the problem is right now the fleet is so small, everybody knows each other. So it's not like back when they had like 10 or 12 boats, although we might be getting back to that. So it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to hate somebody with such a small group.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows each other. All the teams, they all live in the same area of Washington State. So they kind of all know each other. And boat racing is a really close-knit community. Although there are some folks that rub each other the wrong way. I'll say that. But I don't think it would be big enough for like a Drive to Survive or anything of that nature. But it would definitely be one series that would benefit if they had one.
There was just talking, and not to change the subject or anything, but just talking about small knit racing communities. Mm-hmm. So I started listening to the Red Flags Formula One podcast. Yes. And we've been sharing some snippets back and forth from Engine Mode 11, who was a technical analyst guy for Red Bull Racing. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually listening to the full interview, and I was surprised at how tight knit Formula One the paddock is, down to like helping each other out. So what he was saying was like, you know, if teams forget something or don't have enough of something, like other teams will help them out. Like if, you know, like with tech support, if they don't have enough cables, or they don't have this or that, I mean, they will go down the paddock and these other teams will give them what they need, which was surprising. I kind of had this image in my head of like Toto coming over to the Red Bull garage and Christian just like giving it to him, you know, like F no, we're not helping you, Toto. Like, you finance guy, blah blah blah. But no, it's actually really interesting to hear how actually interwoven those teams are and how willing they are to help each other out.
Well, when they're flying all across the country from March to November, I guess you do have to form some sort of working relationships, especially on these long trips where you may not have all the stuff. And at the end of the day, everybody wants to beat everyone on the track, not in the garage. So it's nice to see everybody working with each other. And there was actually one that either I sent this to you or you sent this to me, where they were talking about Christian Horner and how he's completely different off the microphone from in it. Yeah, you sent it. Apparently he's completely different on mic compared to off it.
Yeah, he went on to say that Christian's one of those people that believes there's no such thing as bad press, and so that he definitely turns it on for the cameras. Yeah. Which I think in reality we probably all knew that. I mean, he's a very intense dude, and most people can't carry that on. Like I had a feeling that most of what we see him on his TV is probably a persona. In real life, he's probably not quite so intense. But you never know. Like I don't think that Toto goes home and just smashes Bo's headphones every time something doesn't go his way. You know, these people.
I think they all play it up for the camera.
I think they all have on-track personality, or like at the track personalities, and then like at the factory and at home personalities. Mm-hmm. But controversy sells.
Yeah, it does. So we're moving on to Spa this weekend as we count down the days to the re-coronation of Red Bull as the World Drivers and World Constructors Champions. Thank you, Ferrari, for absolutely throwing the season. But as we get into that, we also get into the driver changes, and Danny Rick, no longer at McLaren, obviously, with Oscar Piastri coming in. He wants to stay in Formula One. Honestly, I don't know where he could go where it would be competitive. I mean, if he stays in any of the cars that are open, which is at this point Haas, Alfa Romeo, or going back to Alpine, that's pretty much it for his championship ambitions, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and don't forget the Oscar Piastri situation is not over. Yeah. Alpine is fighting it. So there is a scenario where Oscar Piastri does not go to McLaren and he's stuck at Alpine. And then now McLaren does not have a second driver.
Yeah, that is going to be, if that happens, that is going to be such a, nobody's going to be happy in those relationships with Alpine. And I don't know what you do if you're McLaren. Do you try to bring Danny Rick back? Do you go to find somebody else? Like, what do you do there?
I don't think Danny Rick would go back. But I think if you can't find somebody in a junior series or someone that you don't think is ready to come up, I think that's when you look at IndyCar. You know, well, what do you have over in IndyCar? I mean, we'll see how the Pelot thing goes. But
I would love to see Pelot come over here at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, we just don't know, and we won't know until the courts decide who gets him. We know that both contracts are considered valid, but at the end of the day, only one of them is really valid. But as far as Danny Rick goes, I understand wanting to stay in Formula One, but I really think, I don't think he finds what he wants in Formula One. I mean, You're not getting your seat at Red Bull back. You're not getting a seat at AlphaTauri or not even that AlphaTauri is really overly competitive this year, but you're not getting a quality ride no matter what you do. The quality rides are locked up. And so personally, I think his best bet probably would have been taking up McLaren's offer to go to IndyCar. McLaren offered him a spot on the IndyCar team, which again just gets interesting with the Pelot deal. But and this is what I tweeted it and I texted you guys about it. My like dream scenario is that he comes to Junior Motorsports, takes over the 9 in the Xfinity series, and then when Dale Jr. makes the jump to Cup, he's their Cup driver. Mm-hmm. But I give that about a 3% chance of happening.
Speaking on that, there was a rumor that Noah Gragson was going to be the Cup Series driver for JRM if they could have got a charter for next season. Obviously, that charter did not come to pass, and that is why Gragson is now moving on to Petty GMS next season.
That doesn't break my heart. I do not like or respect Noah Gragson as a driver. I do not think that I think he has all the talent in the world, but I think that, and this is something we say all the time, if you get these drivers with talent, but they don't have the temper to match. I mean, there's no shortage of drivers who fit that mold. Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch. These guys have some maturing to do, and it's just the cycle of NASCAR. Gragson will become a really good NASCAR driver once he matures a little bit and gets his temper under control. But I'm glad for Dale Jr. that he doesn't have to deal with Noah Gragson anymore, because his organization that he and Kelly have built and managed together really is a stand-up organization. They don't really ever get into any sort of controversy until Noah Gragson. He's definitely been kind of a not so bright spot in an otherwise great organization, and I'm not sad to see him go.
No, I don't think anyone else is. We'll see what he does in Petty GMS, but there's a lot of stuff he was doing in Xfinity that's not going to be put up with in Cup, so we will see how that goes for him. But just for Daniel Ricciardo, I get the allure of Formula One. It is the pinnacle of motorsports. I don't want to use too much air quotes there, but there's so many other racing series you could drive. And at this point, I think he's locked out of a championship-winning ride, to be honest. I don't think there's one really there for him, and I wouldn't want to be there just to say, oh, I'm scoring points in Formula One. I think it would be better to go and try to race and win in some other series and just try to enjoy this instead of sitting there and lamenting your lost Formula One dreams and still trying to make something happen.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I think Daniel Ricciardo to Junior Motorsports makes so much sense. Daniel has the opportunity to come into championship-winning equipment. We've seen multiple championships for Junior Motorsports in the last few years. And another thing about Daniel is he loves the American lifestyle, and cowboy hats and NASCAR and Dale Earnhardt Sr. He's been on the Dale Jr. download. He's the only Formula One driver, at least active. I think he's actually the only Formula One driver that I know of that's been on the Dale Jr. download.
Yes.
There's just a lot of things that point me towards a Daniel Ricciardo Junior Motorsports. It just makes so much sense, and that's why I do not think that it happens. But that is like my wish, is that would happen. I would be the biggest Daniel Ricciardo fan if he was at Junior Motorsports.
Yes. I hope he can get over there, but we will see what he decides to do, because he wants to run that Formula One, and sometimes the dreams just aren't there for everybody. But as we move forward, we do have nearest the win to get to. We have NASCAR and Formula One this weekend with Spa. This is going to be an interesting race here, because this will be the first race with the new flexi floor regulations. We'll see how that affects Red Bull. I think they're still going to win.
I have something, Darryl.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember whether it was Missed Apex or WTF1. I think it was Missed Apex. But I think it was their mailbag episode from this past. But somebody asked if they think that Ferrari is intentionally sandbagging this championship because they still have fallout from 2019.
I think that would be nonsense.
So
I just don't think that they... You've got the best car on the grid. If you're still worried about that 2019 stuff, which was a completely different car at this point, you're just out to lunch.
So the thought is that they still have not recovered from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever, and obviously we don't know, and we probably will never know. And Missed Apex did feel the need to throw out the term alleged multiple times, so I feel we should take that action as well and say that those allegations are obviously alleged. There's nothing proved. But that there might still be some fallout in their engines from that that is causing issues, and they just can't get over it. So because of that, that's why they completely miss on strategy, is because they're having issues with their engines and they don't want to come out and say it. And so that's why they're sandbagging and messing up the strategy, is essentially for a cop-out on their engines.
I hope that's not it, because you just robbed the fans of what should be an excellent championship fight that y'all have wasted. That unfortunately we're probably not going to see come to fruition at this point, because there's no way Ferrari's going to recover from this in the next 9 weeks unless Red Bull just completely melts down at this point.
Well, I think that's unlikely. And Mercedes is too far gone.
Yes.
If this was, 6 or 7 races into the season that Mercedes started putting it together and getting reliable or, podiums week after week, then I think it's a different story. But Red Bull has way too much on Mercedes right now, and Ferrari is not going to be able to make up the difference.
No. So I think they are pretty much done with that. And we will see how this season rolls. And Arthur Parsons, joining us late, says he's excited for Daytona. I am as well. We've got to pick Daytona and Spa, which is going to be a rapid race, and the rain chances have dissipated, so that will be a clean to the end type race.
Did you see what's on the forecast for Spa?
Well, it's actually cleared up now.
Did it?
In the most recent. Yeah. In the most recent that I found.
Thank golly. I thought we were going to have to bring your hydroplanes over there.
Oh, goodness. We would have to have F1 hydroplanes to get that race done. With what was being forecast, thankfully it went away. But I am going to take for this weekend, I think all three of us did Max the last time out. I'm going to take a flyer and say Mercedes is finally going to get on the top step of the podium this year, and Lewis is going to do it. And for Cup, this guy's got to win to make the playoffs. He's finished second here the last 2 times. Bubba Wallace is going to get the bad karma off, and he's going to win at Daytona tonight on Saturday night.
So I am also picking Lewis, but for a different reason. Well, you know what, though? And we did not talk about this, and it's a shame we didn't. But there are new flex floor rules.
Yes.
And so we do not know how Red Bull or Ferrari are going to perform. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I am going with Lewis. I was originally going to say because Max was going to win and Lewis is most likely to finish second. But actually, you know what though? I think that one of the Silver Arrows picks up the win, and just to be safe, I'm going with Lewis. And for NASCAR, I'm gonna take. I'm gonna hate myself for this too. I'm gonna take Eric Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He has really impressed me this year. That whole organization has, and I think it was the last time we were at Daytona. I think he was running right up towards the front. I think he led quite a few laps. So yeah, I'm gonna take that Jones boy.
Yep. So, if you want to play nearest to win, of course, hashtag nearest to win with who you think is going to win this weekend. Get your picks in before the firing of engines to get into the game. And that'll be the checkered flag for this episode. Remember, I'm at DK Jr. 12. Chris is at Fiji Sims if you want to talk to us on the Twitters. Make sure you follow the iSports Radio social medias on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok now, and Twitter. I don't remember if I said Twitter, but also on Twitter. We are at the Extra Mile Pod on TikTok if you want to speak to us there or see some of the content we have coming out. Also, make sure you get locked in on the Patreon. Go to www.isportsradio.com to see more about that. $5 gets you a shout out on all of our shows, and upgraded tiers include iSports Radio merchandise, podcasting university, and a chance to be a segment on our flagship show, The Defining Moment. And of course, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, MLOS Grade, Key to the Gate, and one anonymous Patreon user. So that will do it for this episode of The Extra Mile. For Chris and Darryl, thank you so much for listening. We will see you in the next green flag. Good night, everybody.